Welcome to the Fragments of Me. This channel shares fictional emotional stories inspired by real-life situations. All characters and events are created for storytelling and entertainment purposes only.
I'm sitting here at 3 in the morning, typing this whole mess out while he's sleeping right next to me, like nothing happened. Like my whole world didn't just get turned upside down by some random number sending me screenshots. I'm Amy, and I'm 23, and honestly, I thought I had this whole thing figured out. Me and Hayden have been together for 3 years, and he just flew me out here for the holidays, because we've been doing this long-distance thing since he graduated. And let me tell you something. Long distance is not for the weak. Everyone acts like it's so romantic, but it's actually exhausting, having to constantly prove you're still into someone you barely see. Like I'm supposed to sit around waiting for his calls every night when I have my own life happening back home. But whatever, he's been really sweet about the whole thing. Paid for my ticket, planned all these cute dates, took me shopping yesterday at some fancy mall. He's trying so hard, and part of me feels bad, but also like, this is what boyfriends are supposed to do, right? The thing is, being here with him feels different now. Not bad different, just different. Like we're playing house or something. He keeps talking about our future and making all these plans, but honestly, I don't know if I want the same things anymore. Back home, I've been figuring myself out, meeting new people, having experiences, and yeah, some of those experiences maybe weren't exactly girlfriend appropriate, but that's not really the point. The point is, I'm young, and I'm not ready to have my whole life mapped out by some guy I met in college. Even if he is sweet, and even if he does love me. Sometimes love isn't enough, you know? Like when he talks about me moving here after I graduate or us getting married someday, my stomach gets all tight. Not because I don't care about him, but because I feel trapped. And then I feel guilty for feeling trapped, which makes everything worse. So I've been putting on this happy girlfriend act all week, smiling and laughing at his jokes and pretending like everything is perfect. Because what else am I supposed to do? Tell him I've been thinking about other guys. Tell him that being back home without him made me realize how much I like my independence. Tell him that sometimes when we video chat, I'm thinking about what I'm missing out on instead of focusing on what he's saying. That would destroy him, and for what? So I smile and nod and let him plan our future while I figure out what I actually want. The problem is, I think I already know what I want, and it's not this suffocating relationship where every decision has to be made together. But breaking up with someone who loves you and treats you well, just because you want to be selfish, feels impossible. Especially when he's spending all this money on me and being so thoughtful about everything. Like, how do you tell someone their love feels like a cage? How do you explain that their devotion makes you want to run? You don't. You just keep pretending and hope something changes or someone makes the decision for you. Which is probably why I wasn't more careful about covering my tracks back home. Maybe part of me wanted to get caught. Maybe part of me needed an excuse to be the bad guy, so I wouldn't have to be the one breaking his heart for no good reason. Because wanting freedom isn't a good enough reason to hurt someone who's never done anything wrong except love you too much. But sitting here watching him sleep all peaceful and trusting, I know something's about to change. I can feel it in my bones. The way my phone keeps buzzing with messages from numbers I don't recognize. The way my stomach keeps dropping every time I think about what those messages might contain. So this morning started normal enough until my phone started going crazy with messages from some random number. At first, I thought it was spam, but then I saw the screenshots and my heart literally stopped. Pictures of text conversations, as I definitely remember having. Pictures of me with Remy that I thought were just between us. Details about things I did back home that nobody else was supposed to know about. And the worst part is it's all real. Every single screenshot, every conversation, every moment of weakness I had when I was missing Hayden, but also loving my freedom. The person texting me knows everything about what happened with Remy, and they're not asking for money or anything. They just sent it all and disappeared. Like they wanted Hayden to find out, but they wanted me to know first, which honestly feels worse somehow. Like I'm getting a warning that my life is about to explode. But here's the thing that really gets me. I'm not even that sorry about what happened. I'm sorry I got caught, and I'm sorry Hayden's gonna get hurt. But I'm not sorry I lived my life. Being back home without him was the first time in years I felt like myself instead of half of a couple. Going out with my friends without having to check in constantly. Meeting new people without explaining my whole relationship situation. Dancing with guys without feeling guilty. And yeah, things with Remy went further than dancing, but that's between me and my conscience. The crazy part is, Hayden's still sleeping like an angel right next to me while I'm having this full mental breakdown. He has no idea his perfect girlfriend has been keeping secrets. He thinks we're this power couple who can survive anything, including distance and time and all that romantic nonsense. Meanwhile, I've been living a completely different life, every time we hang up the phone. Not because I don't care about him, but because I care about me too. And maybe that makes me selfish, but at least I'm honest about it. Well, honest with myself anyway. I never meant for him to find out like this, though. I figured what happened back home could just stay back home and we'd figure out our relationship naturally without all this drama. But apparently someone else had different plans. The screenshots show conversations where I'm complaining about feeling trapped, where I'm telling Remy how suffocated I feel in this relationship, where I'm saying things about Hayden that definitely aren't girlfriend of the year material. Reading them back now, I sound terrible, but I was just being real about my feelings. Sue me for not pretending everything was perfect when it wasn't. The worst screenshot is probably the one where I'm telling Remy that I don't know if I want to be with Hayden long term anymore. That I feel like I'm too young to be this serious with someone. That sometimes I wish he'd just break up with me so I wouldn't have to be the bad guy. Because that's the truth, even if it sounds awful. Sometimes the person who loves you the most is the person holding you back the most. And they don't even realize it. But I can't say that to Hayden because it would destroy him, and honestly, what's the point? Either we work through this, or we don't. Either he can forgive me for being human, or he can't. I'm not going to beg and plead and promise to change, because I don't think I should have to change. I think I should get to be young and make mistakes, and figure out what I want without someone monitoring my every move, even if that someone loves me and wants what's best for me. Love doesn't mean ownership, and I wish more people understood that. Well, the moment of truth finally came, and honestly, it went about as badly as you'd expect. Hayden woke up and immediately knew something was wrong, because apparently I'm terrible at hiding when I'm freaking out. He kept asking what was wrong, and I kept saying nothing, because what else was I supposed to say? Hey babe, someone just sent me proof of all the ways I betrayed you while you've been planning our future together. That seemed like a conversation that needed more coffee and less morning breath. But he wouldn't let it go, and eventually he just asked to see my phone. Point blank, no warning, just demanded to look through my messages. And the crazy thing is, I almost said no. Not because I had anything left to hide, since whoever sent those screenshots clearly had access to everything anyway, but because it felt like such a violation. Like even if I messed up, that doesn't mean he gets to go through my personal stuff without permission. But then I realized how ridiculous that sounded and just handed it over. His face, when he started reading those messages, was something I'll probably remember forever. Not angry at first, just confused. Like he couldn't understand what he was looking at. He kept scrolling and scrolling, and I could literally watch the moment each piece of information hit him. When he got to the pictures with Remy, his hands started shaking. When he read the conversations about feeling trapped, he just stared at the screen for like 5 minutes without saying anything. The worst part was how quiet he got. I was expecting yelling and accusations and demands for explanations. Instead, he just sat there processing everything like he was trying to solve some impossible math problem. Finally, he looked at me and asked if it was all real. Not angry, not hurt, just factual, like he was conducting an interview. So I told him yes, because what else was I gonna say? Lie and make everything worse, pretend those weren't my words and my choices, act like someone else wrote those messages about how suffocated I felt in our relationship. He deserved to know the truth, even if the truth sucked for both of us. Then came the questions I was dreading. How long had this been going on? Who else knew? Whether I ever actually loved him, or if I'd just been pretending this whole time. And honestly, some of those questions didn't have easy answers. Because yes, I love him, but maybe not the way he loves me. Maybe not in that all-consuming plan your whole life around someone way that he does. Maybe more like you love a really good friend who you also happen to be attracted to. But try explaining that to someone whose entire world just got flipped upside down. The thing that seemed to hurt him most wasn't even the physical stuff with Remy. It was reading my actual thoughts about our relationship, about feeling trapped and wanting freedom and not being sure about our future. He said it was like dating a stranger for 3 years. Like everything he thought he knew about me and about us was just some elaborate performance I'd been putting on. Which honestly isn't totally wrong, but also isn't totally fair. I wasn't performing, I was just trying to be the girlfriend he wanted, instead of the person I actually am. And maybe that was my mistake, but it came from a good place. Nobody wants to hurt someone they care about by telling them their love feels overwhelming, instead of comforting. Nobody wants to admit they're not ready for forever when someone is ready to give you everything. So yeah, I kept parts of myself hidden. But doesn't everyone in relationships? Isn't that just what you do to make things work? After we talked for what felt like hours, Hayden finally told me what was going to happen next. And let me tell you, it wasn't what I expected at all. I thought maybe we'd fight more, maybe he'd ask me to explain myself better, maybe we'd try to work through it somehow. Instead, he just looked at me with these completely dead eyes and said my flight home was tomorrow as planned, and that was it. No negotiation, no second chances, no dramatic speeches about how much he loved me, despite everything. Just pack your stuff and go home. Like I was some random girl he'd hooked up with instead of his girlfriend of 3 years. The weird part is I actually felt offended by how calm he was being. Like, excuse me, shouldn't you be more upset that the person you've been planning a future with just had their entire secret life exposed? Shouldn't there be more emotion here? More fighting for what we had. More trying to figure out if this was fixable. But no, he was just done. Completely and totally done in a way that felt almost insulting. Because even though I'd been feeling trapped and wanting more freedom, I never actually wanted us to be over. I just wanted things to be different. Less intense, less serious, less like we were already married when we're both still figuring ourselves out. But apparently, there's no middle ground in Hayden's world. Either you're all in or you're out. And my behavior had clearly put me in the out category. He started making arrangements immediately, changed my flight to earlier in the day, called a car to take me to the airport, even packed my stuff for me like he couldn't wait to erase any evidence I'd ever been there. And the whole time he was doing this, I kept waiting for him to break down or get angry or something. Some sign that this was killing him as much as it was confusing me. But nothing. Just this robotic efficiency like he was handling a business transaction instead of ending our relationship. The worst part was how he talked to me for the rest of the day. Polite, but distant, like I was a house guest who'd overstayed their welcome. Offering me food and asking if I needed anything, but not making eye contact. Not touching me accidentally when we passed in the hallway. Not even seeming sad, just inconvenienced, like I'd broken something expensive, and now he had to deal with the mess. I tried to bring up the fact that we should probably talk more about what this all meant, whether this was really it for us, or if we might work things out later when everything wasn't so fresh and overwhelming. But he just said there wasn't anything left to discuss, that the screenshots had shown him everything he needed to know about how I really felt and what I'd really been doing. Which felt unfair, because those messages were me venting and processing my feelings, not some master plan to destroy our relationship. But I guess when someone's trust gets broken that completely, context doesn't matter anymore. Just results. And the results were that I'd been living a double life while he was planning our future together. That I'd been complaining about our relationship to another guy while accepting expensive gifts and romantic gestures from him. that I'd made him look like an idiot who couldn't even tell when his own girlfriend was unhappy. So yeah, I could see why he'd want me gone. I just didn't expect it to happen so quickly and with so little drama. It felt anticlimactic, honestly, like 3 years should warrant more than a day of cold politeness before getting shipped back home like unwanted luggage. The ride to the airport was probably the most uncomfortable hour of my life. And that's saying something. Hayden insisted on coming with me, which I thought meant maybe he was going to change his mind, or at least want to have some kind of proper goodbye. But no, he just sat there staring out the window like I wasn't even in the car. When I tried to start conversations about practical stuff like when we'd talk again or what we were telling people about the breakup, he just gave me these one-word answers that made it clear he didn't want to discuss anything. It was like he'd already moved on completely, while I was still trying to process what was happening. The airport was even worse, because that's when it really hit me that this was actually over. Like not just a fight or a rough patch, but completely finished. He walked me to security, and I kept expecting some movie moment where he'd grab my hand and say he couldn't let me go. Instead, he just stood there with his hands in his pockets waiting for me to leave. So I tried to give him a hug. Goodbye, and he actually stepped back. Literally moved away from me like I was contagious or something. That's when I finally started crying because the whole situation was so surreal and final and not at all how I'd imagined this trip ending. But even my tears didn't seem to affect him. He just told me to take care of myself and walked away before I even made it through security. Left me standing there with my boarding pass feeling like the biggest idiot in the world. And that's when I realized he probably planned this whole thing. The early flight change, the car, the cold treatment. It was all designed to get me out of his life as quickly and cleanly as possible. Like I was some kind of problem that needed solving instead of someone he'd loved for 3 years. Which honestly made me angrier than sad, because who does that? Who just cuts someone off that completely without even trying to work through things? I mean, yeah, I messed up, and yes, those screenshots looked terrible out of context, but relationships are supposed to survive mistakes, aren't they? People are supposed to fight for each other when things get hard instead of just giving up at the first sign of trouble. But apparently, Hayden's version of fighting for us was planning cute dates while I was secretly miserable, so maybe we were never as strong as I thought anyway. The flight home gave me way too much time to think about everything, and honestly, the more I thought about it, the less guilty I felt. Because yes, I handled things badly, and yes, I should have been more honest about my feelings. But I wasn't wrong about feeling trapped. Our relationship had become this suffocating thing, where every decision had to be approved by both parties, and every conversation was about our future instead of our present. That's not love. That's control. And maybe if he'd been more interested in what I actually wanted instead of what he thought I should want, none of this would have happened. Maybe if he'd given me space to grow up instead of trying to lock me down, I wouldn't have needed to find that space somewhere else. But no. It was easier to just paint me as the villain and himself as the victim than to actually examine what went wrong between us. So fine. If he wants to tell everyone I'm some cheating monster who destroyed our perfect relationship, let him. I know the truth about what it's really like to date someone who loves the idea of you more than the actual you. So I've been back home for about 2 months now, and honestly, life has been pretty good. Better than good, actually. Turns out being single and free to make my own choices without checking with someone else first is exactly what I needed. I've been hanging out with my friends more, focusing on school, and yes, spending time with Remy, who's actually a really great guy when you get to know him. Way more fun and spontaneous than Hayden ever was. Less serious about everything, more willing to just live in the moment, instead of constantly planning some imaginary future. But apparently, the universe had other plans for my happiness, because last week everything started falling apart in ways I definitely didn't see coming. It started when I ran into Hayden's sister at the grocery store, and she looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. Then my roommate mentioned that people were talking about me online, sharing screenshots of private conversations and calling me all kinds of names. Turns out someone had posted the entire story about what happened with me and Hayden, complete with those same screenshots that broke us up, on some relationship forum where it went completely viral. Thousands of people weighing in on my personal business, calling me everything from selfish to sociopathic, strangers analyzing my private thoughts and deciding I'm some kind of monster for being honest about my feelings. The comments were brutal. People saying I deserved to be alone forever, that Hayden was lucky to escape someone like me, that I was everything wrong with my generation. Some even found my social media accounts and started messaging me directly with their opinions about my life choices. Which is insane because these people don't even know me. They're judging an entire person based on some screenshots taken out of context during the worst moment of a relationship. But the really messed up part is how it's affecting my actual life now. Guys I try to date somehow find out about the story and ghost me immediately. Friends are acting weird around me like I might betray them too. Even my family is giving me these disappointed looks, like I'm some kind of embarrassment. My mom actually asked me if the things people were saying online were true, and when I tried to explain my side, she just said, maybe I should think about why so many people had the same reaction. Which felt like such a betrayal, because shouldn't your own mother be on your side regardless? But the absolute worst part is what happened with Remy. Turns out he's been getting harassed online too for being the guy I cheated with. And instead of standing by me or defending what we had, he completely threw me under the bus. Told people he had no idea I was in a serious relationship and that I'd lied to him about everything. Said he felt used and manipulated and would never have gotten involved if he'd known the truth. Which is complete garbage because he knew exactly what my situation was and was fine with it until it became inconvenient for him. So now, I'm sitting here completely alone, while Hayden gets to be the poor victim who was betrayed by his terrible girlfriend. People are probably feeling sorry for him and telling him he's better off without me, while I'm getting death threats from strangers on the internet. And honestly, I'm starting to think maybe I should have just stayed in that suffocating relationship, because at least then I had someone who cared about me. Now I have nobody, and apparently that's exactly what I deserve according to the entire world. But whatever, I'm not going to apologize for wanting freedom or for being honest about my feelings, even if honesty isn't what people want to hear.